Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Garco's tutorial. Today we'll be doing form validation where we create a form component, also some validation conditions, and also the validation schema where it contains your form-specific conditions that can be used that you can use for this validation rules here. Now, first things first, you need to install React. In this scenario, like install React through Byte. If you want to use Byte as well, you can go to their documentation and see how to install Byte and React. Now, in this app component we have here, I've imported a form. I've separated it because for this purpose here, since I don't want to add a actual field to the app JSX, I want to separate every component I have. That's why we have the separate form here. Let's open this form. What we can see right here is that we get some state, we get some handlers here, um, got the form tag here, all the fields that's necessary, got first name, middle name, and last name. Now, we'll just go through here one by one. We've got the state, which is necessary for your form. I've used this one instead of ref because I need it for validation. I haven't tried the use ref yet to validate it. I'm going to use this useState here. I got that first name, last name, and middle name just for this training purposes. We got this handle change and handle submit. We got the handle change that gets the name and value from the input and set the form value depends on the name that was taken from the input and the value that was taken from the input. So it's basically this one. I just set this form state here. Now we've got the submit button as well, where it sets for it validates the input, the form, state, and it gets the schema. I'll discuss to you what that is later on. And that's basically it. If there's any error, it checks if the object is not empty or not. In this case, it's not empty. Sorry, it's empty. Then the submit should proceed since there's no error anymore. But if it's not empty, then it sets the errors and it's not proceed with the submit. Set the error state as well. I set the validation errors in this error state so that it can be used in the um, rendered UI here that says if there's an error first name, it displays uh, the error for this first name from the error state, including the last name. A middle name I've left as is because we don't really usually um, validate middle names since it can be empty. Okay. Uh, We've got this value and onChange here. The value is just taking what's value from the form state, and onChange is using this handle change function here that I've discussed earlier. Now that's just it for the form component. Now let's go to this schema. The schema just basically contains um, what's the field name, um, what's the type. There's an array here, so all the types, all the all the rules that you want added to the first name. Let's say you want the first name to be required. So I've added here a type that gets a required value and an optional uh, message value here. And we got the type for minland and maxland. For the last name, I've only added a type required without a message so that you can see there's a default value for that validation as well that you can add in your project. Okay, so let's go to the run validation. Got here. Oops, I got wrong spelling. Run validation. Come on, man. Validation. Copy that. Just put it here. Oh, but sorry. Um, where were we? Okay, so run validation function receives a form data and validation rule. The form data is what you've seen on this form component where it says set form and set form use state. It's reading this form here, and other one is the validation rule, which is being read from the schema validation schema JS, where there's a schema that is exported here. As I've mentioned earlier, the first name and last name, and go back to this validation JS. We've got these const errors here that will be returned from this function. So whatever is there, if there's any error, it will return a populated object. If there's not, then it's good to go. It proceeds with no errors. Submit can um, proceed. Then let's go back on the validation. What we want to do is just look for all the validation rules because we want to validate, right? So it's based off whatever is in the validation rules we had on the schema. Okay, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Uh, Still small. Okay, I'll just close this for now. Then, that's, come on. That's fine. Okay. So we've got this loop here, right? It will loop through all the validation rules that was seen on this validation schema. For example, we got first name and last name that will loop to these two. So let's say field path is first name. So it will check this, what's this field name here. And then it can get the root. It can also get the value. The root is taken from this validation rule as being looped, which is from validation schema, and the value is taken from the form data that was passed from the form state, which is this one. So we got these two now. Now we want to check each of the rules because it's possible that there's um, more than one rule per field name or field type. So we got first name, we got three rules here. On the last name we got one, but we want to standardize it to array so that we don't do extra code. So we just say array and then an object of type required for the last name. So let's say it loops the first name got three rules, right? So it loops to three rules and it takes all the values in there like type, message, value, or if you have a pattern like for an email, then you can check for that as well. But in this case, we don't have it. I'll just remove this for now. And then we got this condition here that checks for each of the rules. Like the one we say type is equal to required. So if it's required, then we should check the value. The value that we're mentioning here is whatever is from the form data. So check for the value if there's no value or if the value is empty. So if it is true and it's required, then set the errors using the field path so that it still uses first name as its key and the value is the message. Or if there's no message, it will use this default message here. Same for its min length and max length. So that's just it. You can create your own custom validation. You can add more here, like whatever, um, maybe let's say a fixed length. You want to have only a fixed length where a phone number, right? So fixed length, say the rule value that we had is like probably an 11 number, right? So it should not, if it's not equal to 11, then it should say that, hey, this one is not equal to 11. It is wrong, something like that. So must be 11 characters, 7 digits. Sorry. So that's just it for the validation. Then if anything of this is true, then it sets the error and it should also break, right? So you only want to show one error per field. If you want to show multiple errors per field, you may want to customize this one, like to store an array for each error, for each field, so that you can display multiple errors for each field. It will run like this, and then we go back to the browser, and then you can see here we've got this first name, middle name, and last name, right? If I submit, we got this first name required, field path. The field path is required. As you can see, the default value is this one because we didn't pass anything in the last name as a message. Go back to the form. So it's just after you press submit, it will run the validation with the form data that we currently have and the schema that we've created for this validation. And then if there's no error, it will return um, or if there's no error, then the submit button can proceed, and if there's an error, then it sets the errors here, this object here. That's basically it. Hope you've learned something new. You can customize this wherever you want. Um, it's a better way to validate your inputs in React, especially if you have very large states or data that you need to process on the submit. You can just loop it here in the validation, add a validation schema. It's more maintainable as well, so that you don't see anything that says um, if this form that first name is empty, you don't want to see that in here. If you have very large state, that's just it. Hope you've learned something new. Said it again. um, Thank you, and please subscribe. Bye.